Too a little short for a stormtrooper.
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. Tonight we are recapping the season finale of Mandalorian Season 3 before the return from Mandalore back to Navarro and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me as always, Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, a series. That's what's up. Well, a season. Sorry, not a series. A season. A season of a series.
Season.
That was
up and over. That's right.
Yes. Moff Gideon tried to get up and got shot down.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that were down that kept crashing and falling. And
yeah. Well, what goes up must come down, as they say.
X-Woves went up. A light cruiser came down.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. That guy whose name I can't remember went up, and then he came down with an entire Star Destroyer.
X-Woves.
X-Wolves.
X-Wolves.
Oh, that's exactly what you said.
Yep.
Okay. It's because I don't know that guy's name that I said the exact same thing as you.
Didn't register.
But less intelligently. Yeah, all right, season finale. What do we think? How it ended? Like last week we talked about how we thought the armorer was in on it. We were all wrong. All of us were wrong.
So
we're reading into it. This is a real Mephisto situation where the whole internet thought that something was up and we were all wrong.
Well, I guess that's partly because they titled last week The Spies, and there was no S there.
Yeah, who was the second spy?
Got me. Still haven't figured it out. Maybe we won't.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, we did get to see the armorer do some really awesome fighting in this. Just completely badass, flying around, smashing people with hammers.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing, I gotta say. So she's she's not a double agent as we suspected, so that's good. What else happened in this? So Din Djarin, our hero, captured, ends up being apparently Grogu didn't escape with the others. I guess I thought he did, but he did not. He stayed on the other side of that door somehow and hid from the Praetorian guards. Sorry, petroleum guards.
Petroleum guards, please. Yes. They tried to slather Vaseline all over our two heroes and failed miserably, apparently.
If you can catch them and refine them, they're worth just billions of dollars. You could be rich.
Barrels of guards.
Yeah.
We're already off the rails.
Yeah, I know. I'm not going to keep going down that road or we'll never get to the episode. Steve, I mean, what did you think of this episode? I don't want to go beat by beat necessarily. What did you think of this episode? Good cap to the season? Did you expect more? Was it not enough? What did you think?
I think it was solid. I don't think it was like an A+, but it was like it tied up some things. The tail end of the season definitely at least moved the story along. It added some new questions and wrinkles to the equation, but in general it tied up quite well what we were seeing this season for the problems and the trials and tribulations of Grogu and Din and Bo and everybody else.
Yeah, it was definitely an action-heavy episode. I thought everyone had been thinking that the first few, the beginning of the season was like a little dry or something slow. People thought the first couple episodes. I feel like there was a lot of action this season, now that I'm kind of thinking about it. But this one specifically was just pretty much a big fight from end to end, whether it was Din versus those Praetorian guards or the Mandalorian versus Stormtrooper jetpack midair fight, which is pretty great. And I was really like, this is cool. This is something cool that we've never seen in Star Wars before. Like, we've seen plenty of jetpacks, whether it be in live action or Clone Wars or whatever. Like, people are flying, people are using those jetpacks. But we've never really seen a big fight, a big like air, mid-air fight that wasn't, in X-Wings or TIE fighters or whatever, like that was really cool.
Yeah, we saw it in Rebels or tail end of Clone Wars there, but there was nothing in live action, and that was kind of a nice twist on it.
Is there like a big aerial fight in the end of Clone Wars?
Oh, it might not be the end of Clone. I might just be thinking of Rebels.
Or Rebels?
The
Sorry.
Sabine,
I
the
guess I don't
Sabine
know
arc
the...
there, where you've got like Gar Saxon and the Imperial
okay.
Super Commandos going at it against the Mandalorian Remnant.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Okay, right. So maybe I'm wrong, but it was still cool to see. And
It definitely wasn't on the scale of what we saw. Like that was.
I guess that's what I mean.
insane.
Yeah, it was like a full,
Yeah.
army versus army,
Right.
kind of thing. Yeah.
It was like the classic, like two armies line up across from each other and they run at each other on horseback. But
Right.
instead of
Yeah,
horseback, they're on jetpacks.
They're on jetpacks. Yeah, exactly. It's that classic like Lord of the Rings
Mhm.
or Game of Thrones. We're charging at each other. Yeah, and that awesome shot of Bo-Katan with the Darksaber, like lighting it and pointing it, and her in the armor, like just diving straight in. It was awesome.
Mhm.
Speaking of, let's hit that point right away. Destruction of the Darksaber. Steve, thoughts?
Yeah, it'll be
Hurt?
back.
Does it care? It will be back. he
I'm sure.
says.
They like mildly tweaked it. He was kind of bent a little.
Yeah, you just crunched it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've seen at least one lightsaber get completely torn in half and then miraculously be put back together and shown up again in the subsequent film. So
Yeah, for no reason.
Yeah, for no reason.
Somehow the lightsaber returned.
Well, for the reason that the filmmakers thought for some reason that lightsaber was completely necessary to further the plot of a character that doesn't need it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Not going to get sucked down that rabbit hole.
With the Darksaber though, I really liked how it ended up being Gideon that was the one that destroyed it.
Yeah.
And that ended the whole thing of like, it wasn't Bo giving it up. It wasn't any of that. It was just like, he was the one to crush it in her hand.
Yeah. Yeah. As a statement of like, you came at me so hard to get this thing. Now I feel so powerful that I don't even need it. So
I don't
I'm
even
going
care
to
anymore.
Destroy it in front of you. Something that means more to you than it does to me. Now, yeah, there's certainly a villainous move for sure.
I did see the
I like
interwebs.
that too. I like that too because it's too important. It's too important to Mandalorians for them to destroy or for them to give up. But it also, having it be gone, at least temporarily, frees them from this, like, I guess I have to follow this person because they're just holding this sword.
Right. It takes one random MacGuffin out of the equation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you follow Bo-Katan because she clearly has proven herself. Like, you're going to stop following Bo-Katan just because some other idiot, like, sucker punches her and takes the Darksaber. Like, doesn't mean that they're a good ruler,
I don't know what I think about it, but I did see on the interwebs an interesting idea that I want your thoughts on.
Okay, hit me.
Darksaber returns not in a Mandalorian's hands, but as Grogu's lightsaber.
Now, okay, why would that be the case?
I don't know. It just seemed cool.
It does seem cool.
Yeah.
It seems very cool, but my mind immediately goes to, like,
there's
how
no
does that make
canon
sense?
reason.
He
would be a Mandalorian at that point, or at least a
Yep.
foundling of some sort.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it makes no sense whatsoever.
And they would have had to build a new one, but like,
or like they repaired that or reforged that or whatever.
is there lore behind? There must be lore behind the construction of the Darksaber as to, like, why, like, is it hard to find a black kyber crystal, and why aren't there more Darksabers out there?
Yeah, I can't remember. There was a whole
This
thing
one's supposed to be,
about
like,
it.
super ancient, right? It's supposed to be like hundreds of years old.
Yeah, because Tar Vizsla was maybe
He's the first
hundreds of
Mandalorian
years.
Jedi.
Yeah, I think it was like hundreds of years before, modern times.
Right. So no, in that time, no one else has found a black kyber crystal, or why?
Right,
was
or like
Vizsla
why
so
was that
lucky
black?
to be the one that found a black kyber crystal, or did he tamper with it to make it black in some way? And I guess I'm asking these questions because, I mean, you said that maybe it'd be cool if Grogu had one in the future, and it would be. But it would be also cool if, like, Mandalorians just made dark sabers. Like that was just the thing that they did.
Right,
You know,
that
they're not
was-
force. They're not force users. They're not Jedi, but one of the many. You know, they got jetpacks. They shoot flames from their hands, and they have dark sabers. Like that's like what they do.
Right.
You know.
It becomes the new cool thing for them.
Yeah, and a way to say like we are all Mandalorians. Nobody is, you know, above anybody else just because they own a sword. You all have the power to wield the same weapons.
Right.
You know what I mean? That'd be cool. And then if that was the route they went, that would make sense for Grogu to have a darksaber should he show up in a later film.
Yeah, there you go.
I can tell you're researching, but I don't know.
Oh no, I was
don't feel
quickly
like-
trying to see if there was anything like about why the hell the darksaber is dark, and it's like I don't know. Wikipedia's got way too many
I
words
mean,
about it.
The answer is because it looks cool. That's the answer.
100%.
And that's totally fine.
Yep.
I read something recent, or I saw something on Instagram or something. It was an Instagram story. It was an interview with Dave Filoni, who he was saying that they originally for Clone Wars, they were going to when like Darksaber's introduced in an episode of Clone Wars, and for that episode they were going to have like a different kind of sword. I can't remember what he said, but it was not a lightsaber, but it was going to be some kind of other, you know, bladed weapon
Like
that
a
could
katana
go
or
toe
something.
to toe with a lightsaber. And George Lucas, who I don't know how many people know this, but George Lucas worked, you know, was involved in Clone Wars, like pretty involved in like the direction of that show. And he said, we shouldn't have two magic swords. There should only be that, because that makes lightsabers less cool. If there's like, oh, they could be using this other thing. So why not make a variation of a lightsaber? And that's how they came up with the darksaber. So like the answer to the question is because it looks cool and because they needed it to be an offshoot of a lightsaber, but not a lightsaber at the same time. So,
there we go.
What else? I was gonna say I loved in this season in general. I love R5D4 being a part of it, and I love that he was a instrumental part of this one, and I loved his little conflict with mouse droids. I thought that was really fun. It's also like the most we've seen mouse droids do in any Star Wars thing ever, besides just, you know, blow along
go past
Star
and
Destroyers always, or and it like went away and then brought all its buddies back to like fight R5. It was really funny, I thought. And okay, so definitely a reference to Phantom Menace with those like energy shields, right? Those like energy
100%.
walls or whatever that he had to close down, like totally Phantom Menace reference, which I thought was cool. And a way that allows Din to take on all these Praetorian guards,
believably,
but not all at once, because they would wreck him, seemingly. Yeah.
12 of them would be a little much.
Little much.
However many it was.
He had a hard time with 3 later in the episode or whatever.
So
I loved, I mean, at the highlight of this episode, one of the highlights of the episode for me was Grogu using the Force to shield his mom and dad from the explosion of the Star Destroyer crashing into the base.
Well, and even prior to that, him using, you know, his limited force. Well, for one, he used the Force during the fight to like push the weapons away from the Praetorian guards and all that.
He knocked Gideon over at one point too, or like slid him away or whatever.
Yep, but just about everything that he did, and this goes back to, you know, his training time with Luke. Everything he did was defensive.
Yes, you're right. Well, a Jedi uses the Force for defense, knowledge and defense, never for
attack. So they, I mean they stuck with that, and they utilized, you know, his Force powers well, but not like overtly. It's not like he made. Although at the same time, if he was training for Luke or training with Luke for 2 years, which is what Filoni said or somebody said in an interview, and it's like, you think he might have picked up something a little bit more than that, but whatever.
I think they're still hiding behind the fact that he is a child still. Like he's clearly matured, but he's still little. Yeah, and I
mean, he's going to make some. Not completely. He's going to make some strides in the next 50 years if Yoda was a master by 100. And
he's going to make some big strides in the next 50 years. I
Well,
think.
probably many small strides because he's about yay tall, but
Yeah, I love that scene, the shot at the end. The
Yeah.
very end when they're like the door opens and they're walking into that cantina to meet with the pilot, the ranger there.
Yep.
And Mandalorian's just taking normal steps, and there's a shot of Grogu just going
Yeah.
like his feet are moving
That's
so
perfect.
fast to keep up with him.
Yep.
So funny. And there's other times when he's like flipping around and jumping out of the
Oh,
way
yeah,
of the
with the
Praetorian
Praetorian
guards when
guards,
it straight up just looks like they just took the entire puppet and just like threw it in the air and
Oh,
flipped
yeah.
it. Like it's,
Yeah.
because he's so little, it's like they can't. And he wears just like a sack, which is like his clothes. He
dude,
doesn't have like
his
form-fitting clothes.
his
at all.
Jedi robes are like the onesie sleep sack thing I used to put my kid
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, like articulating it, even if they did articulate it, it wouldn't look cool. It would just look
Mhm.
like a bent sack. So like, it's just like he's in full, like he's not even like bent over. He's just going wee, like
Yeah.
full through the air. Like they just like tossed the puppet up. It's funny. What do you think of Moff Gideon dying?
I wonder
And
if it
did
was
he
Moff
really
Gideon.
die? That's
So-
what I'm reading. Also, there's theories that, I mean, we see that he's made many clones of himself.
Yeah.
So what's to say that either this wasn't a clone of him, or a clone of him could come back? Like we've certainly seen. We've seen more serious. We've seen people come back from more serious deaths than this. I feel like.
Right.
More like harsher deaths.
Yeah.
I'm specifically thinking of Darth Maul getting cut in half and then suddenly being alive again.
Mhm. But at the same time, I mean, that
how
was a big
likely?
explosion.
It was a big explosion. I know. I think whoever that was, be that
Yeah.
actual Gideon Prime, or it being a clone, I think that one is dead.
Yep.
But I do think that there is potential for
Okay.
a clone of
with you there.
him to come back, should they want him to.
Well, and
Yeah.
maybe it's something like, Gideon Prime lost everything from this base and now has to
Yeah.
go grovel back to whatever Hux with his cloning operation, and like
Yeah.
maybe teams up with Hux moving forward or something like that.
I feel like if we see him again, though, it'll be a surprise.
Yeah.
Like we won't
Yep.
expect it.
It's the
But it
Spanish
also opens up the
Inquisition.
question. Exactly. No one
Yes.
expects Spanish Inquisition. I am interested then to see who the big bad is for season 4 when we get around to that. Which I don't think there's a timeline on when we're getting season 4.
No,
all,
because I know Filoni or Favreau have come out and said that they have the script done.
Yeah, they said it's written.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of how it fits into timelines with Ahsoka and whatever else they're doing.
Yeah, and/or Skeleton Crew.
Yep.
There's a couple irons in
Which
the fire.
more to come if you want to hear more on that in our main episode.
On what? What are we talking about? Our main episode, Andor?
No, the timelines of the future.
Oh, we're talking about
projects.
some film projects in
Mhm.
our main episode tonight. I don't know if there's anything else to really say about this episode. It's just basically a big fight, and the heroes win, and at the end, in a Mandalorian ceremony at the Living Water, were they like for lack of a better term, were they re-baptizing everybody in the actual Living Waters? Like
I
those
think
who
so.
had not been,
Yeah.
because they were doing that same kid that we saw
Mhm.
earlier in the season. Din Djarin officially adopts Grogu as his son. Now, this was cool and wonderful to see, but I also was kind of like, didn't he already kind of do that? I guess this like made it official.
Right.
But I guess I feel like it was a little bit, it didn't quite hit so hard with me, because I was like, yeah, they're already kind of father and son. Like, it's cool that they make it
Yeah.
official, like under Mandalorian law or whatever. That's cool. So here's my question. His name's Din Djarin, and then he adopts him, and the armorer pronounces Grogu, his name is Din Grogu.
Yeah, I would assume
Is-
it's like Asian, like some of the Asian naming conventions in like our world.
Right. So is his first name Din or is his first name Jaren?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, that's my question. Like, is he Din or is he Grogu? I mean,
it'd be like me
'cause you don't-
adopting my son and like his name being Steven Sebastian.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, seems a little weird.
I guess I don't know because no one ever calls. I mean, you and I have called him Din, and I've heard other Star Wars fans call him Din. But I think on the show, when his name is said, it's usually only by the armorer, and the armorer calls him Din Djarin every
Yeah.
time. Like no one just calls him Din. No one certainly calls him Djarin. But then giving what we thought was his first name to Grogu as a new first name is strange. Or maybe that's just Mandalorian culture.
Yeah, like
Maybe
clan and then-
Maybe Bo-Katan's mom was named Bo.
Well, no, because her sister is Satine Kryze.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because it's House Kryze, House Vizsla.
Right.
So would it be House?
Sabine Wren is House Wren.
Yeah. So how does that make sense? It's got to be like people that walked away. It's got to be like a
Right.
custom for them.
No, because Paz Vizsla was part
And
of that.
Vizsla, yeah, yeah. So what?
Go home, Armorer. You're drunk.
What happened here? Yeah.
Just hitting a little too much
What
of the
happened?
living waters and got confused.
I don't get that. I would like that to be.
Like,
explained.
yeah,
I
if
don't understand
well,
that.
maybe because it rolls off the tongue better than Grogu Jaren.
Yeah, but we're just gonna call him Grogu no matter what.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Maybe that's
not like
like
Yoda.
maybe that's the opening of the next season. Is Din is just like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go with Grogu. Like I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just him going, I don't know what she was talking about. We're just gonna
Yeah,
Call him
it's fine.
Yeah.
No, you know what? That'll be an interlude in 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew.
Yeah. yeah. Halfway through Skeleton Crew, it'll be the other return of the Mandalorian, and then those last 3 episodes will be
Right.
Mandalorian episodes. And then they get a little house and they settle down in Navarro together.
Well, before that, I
adorably.
did like the nice scene with, you mentioned it earlier, with Carson Teva at the New Republic's Delphi base,
Oh, yeah.
where he comes back and is like, "Hey, my thing is being a bounty hunter. You guys look like you could use one. I want to help you out and do this off the books." So,
Pretty cool.
yeah,
He offers himself up as like a free agent,
Well,
basically a
and
contractor.
I'm kind of curious if what becomes season 4 of Mandalorian has a lot of pieces of what the old Rangers of the New Republic show was going to have.
I was kind of thinking that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and it's certainly a way to position him in a way to move him forward or give him more stuff to do when all the threads from the first couple seasons are kind of wrapped up.
Yeah.
You know, he's not trying to bring Grogu anywhere. They're not trying to defeat Moff Gideon anymore. What's going to be the next thing? Like, oh well, he's a bounty hunter for the New Republic off the books. But I'm sure that will lead him into some interesting adventures. I was thinking before we sat down and started talking about this. It's interesting that this show has gone 3 seasons, and besides Mandalorian adopting Grogu or becoming, open to being like his father, he hasn't really changed as a character. Like there's not like massive character development in a way that you often see over 3 seasons of a show that's focused on one person. There have been changes, obviously, because he is someone that is now open to a relationship with his son. So that, I guess I'm talking out of my ass because that's clearly a big
Yeah,
for a
but
character,
that
right?
wouldn't take 3 normally that wouldn't take 3 seasons to happen.
Well, I don't think it did,
right.
but like like we're saying, like it's official now at the end of season 3.
What it feels like to me is almost not in the same vein, but like that Din and Grogu are the narrator for the rest of the tale going on around them.
Yeah.
And that kind of is what's tying it all together, and they just happen to be there. To quote Hamilton, they were in the room where it happened.
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
this stuff, and it's like, okay, well, that's where we're getting our point of view from.
Yeah. But even that plot line, like the relationship between him and Grogu is like finalized and official.
Right.
So that's another question for season 4 is like, what is going to be the emotional core of season 4 moving forward? Obviously, it'll still be their relationship in a certain way, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's just going to be different, and like there's going to have to something that progresses the both of them like as characters in season 4, and we'll see what it is, and hopefully we will get the face of Pedro Pascal in season 4 because this is the first season of Mandalorian that we did not see his face at all. Apparently, I heard today on a podcast that he was supposed to be in that last episode. And I guess he was on set for a few episodes this season, but because he was filming Last of Us at the same time, and Last of Us, he's obviously more involved in because he is actually there.
Right. He's
actually
present and a lead.
not just voicing the character of Joel, he's actually right there. That's like his number one. That was his priority over the 2 shows. So, and there was a scheduling conflict, and he could not be on set for the finale of Mandalorian. But it's not, he's. I heard because of that, I guess there were some rumors that he was not going to continue as Mandalorian, and that's not the case. If he is going to come back as Mandalorian,
well, that's
not
good.
going anywhere. So it's good.
I can say if they want to keep going at a Delphi base, and that means we get more live action Zebarelios, then I'm 100% down for this.
Dude, we're going to.
Yeah.
We're Ahsoka. After that trailer, I'm just pretty sure that the Ahsoka show is a backdoor.
It's just Rebel season 5
way to get Rebel season 5. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Rebel season 5 now in live action with a different name.
Now in live action.
Oh, dude, at that Lego thing I went to earlier, they had a like a my own creation of the Ghost.
Ooh,
it
cool.
was perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great ship.
Mm-hmm.
Great ship. Cool. That is all I have to say about Mandalorian season 3. I liked the season. It was good.
Yeah, no.
Good. Didn't knock my socks off. But I still thought it was good.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't the high point of the series as a whole that we've seen. It's just it was probably a bit of a slow burn that I think the last 2 kind of culminated it a bit. There were still, I don't know, I know especially talking to some of our friends who I know listen to the podcast, that there was some lack of satisfaction with how the bow was tied onto this in the final episode, and that they were kind of hoping for something a little bit more finale-ish.
Yeah.
But
yeah, well, there was no twist. It was just pretty straightforward storytelling.
I'm almost surprised they didn't put the last 2 out as one if it was going to be like that, because it was literally just the continuation of that episode.
You're right. Yeah, picked up same spot.
Yeah.
Well, I know that I've heard rumors that Favreau and Filoni like weren't ready to go ahead with Boba Fett at the pace that Disney wanted them to go ahead with the Boba Fett show. So they had to hit a deadline, and that ended up. That's why so many episodes of Boba Fett feel like Mandalorian episodes, is because they ended up taking what they had planned for season 3 of Mandalorian and putting it into Book of Boba Fett, including him getting the Naboo starfighter, Grogu and Luke Skywalker training and stuff, like all that stuff that we saw in Boba Fett was going to be in season 3 of Mandalorian. And then they had to like cobble together a season, which I think worked for a season, but if it feels a little jumbled or a little like you and I were talking, like it seemed like, oh, this is going to be what the season's going to be about, him going back to Mandalores. Oh, he did it in the second episode. This season's going to be about this, and oh, that part's over. Oh, okay, it's uniting the Mandalorians. Okay, this is what's going to be. But we didn't get that plot line introduced until halfway through the season, so it's like, I get it's a little disjointed for sure. I certainly felt that, but
well, it's funny because if you take
like watching it.
If you take that and you insert some of that Boba Fett stuff into like some gaps in the first couple episodes, you have a much more fleshed out timeline. You have a much more well-paced situation. So when you say like the rumor was that it was like they took whatever treatments they had for Mando and shoved them into Boba Fett, that makes sense, and it hurts both properties.
Yeah. And you can kind of tell, like, Grogu was inconsequential to the events of this season. Like, he was there, but, like, it wasn't about him anymore. And I think
Right.
that was because the idea for this season was that he was going to be with Luke Skywalker the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they'd reunite at the end somehow. But, that whole thing about him going to give him the little chainmail shirt and stuff, that was probably going to be episode 1 of season 3 of Mandalorian. And then,
Yep.
didn't work out that way. So I know that's kind of a rumor. I could be wrong about that, but it feels right.
But it really, like, the more I'm thinking about it, the more it makes season 3 a much better season.
Yeah, it would have been a stronger.
And, like,
it would have been a stronger thing.
if you're Disney, why not just take Book of Boba Fett and release it as a 4-episode miniseries instead of a 6?
I don't know.
Although
no,
that was under the old administration, so who knows?
You're right.
Who knows what happens under Iger? But
yeah, but also it could have. I mean, it could have been Kathleen Kennedy too. It could have been Lucasfilm. Might not have been Disney, but yeah, I feel like would have been. I love Grogu, and I certainly love him together with Din Djarin, but also it would have been interesting to have them see the time apart that they've spent. So then when they do get back together, it's a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Than just, okay, we've seen 2 episodes of Boba Fett of him without Grogu, and now in that 3rd episode that he's in of Boba Fett, they're back together. Okay, that was quick.
And it would make the 2-year gap make more sense too.
Yeah, we'd be able to feel it a little bit more. Even if it was only like a season of Mandalorian that they weren't together and they're reunited in the final episode of season 3, like it would have felt like there was more time apart than 3 episodes in a different series. Really strange, but it's Star Wars. Strange stuff happens all the time. It's it's always a mixed bag. Sometimes you pull out gold, and sometimes you pull out something less than gold. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
There you go.
About Mandalorian season 3. And we're about to stop talking and then pause briefly and start talking again. We're going to do our regular weekly wrap up of news. So if you're watching live on YouTube, stay tuned for that. If you're listening, just go to the next episode or the, previous episode, whichever way this shows up in your feed. Find it, listen to it, and love it.
Yeah, as normal people do at 10:15 on a Sunday evening. We're going to go talk for another hour about nerd stuff. So come join us. Check us out on socials, Multiverse RPT on Twitter, Multiverse Report everywhere else. Go like, subscribe, and do all that stuff, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you want to, because that helps us out a lot.
It sure does. And until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse.